How Starbucks manages to capture the perfect cold brew experience of premium coffee drink in a can. It's a process that's far from simple. Don't worry, we're giving you the full scoop straight inside the factory to see the manufacturing process. From bean to can, there's a world of science and craftsmanship at play. Let's dive into the secrets behind your favorite on-the-go coffee experience, the cure for our caffeine obsession. Before we even get to the roasting, the journey to your sipping cup starts with selecting only the best beans. Think of this as the audition stage of America's Got Talent, where only the cream of the crop makes it through to the next round. Premium brands like Starbucks or Nescafe are not just looking for any coffee beans. They are on a mission to find the perfect ones that can deliver the rich, bold flavors they're known for. Starbucks doesn't source just any coffee beans for their cold brew. They specifically select 100% Arabica beans, known for their smooth, rich flavor and low acidity, perfect for the cold brew method. These beans are grown in high-altitude regions like Colombia, Ethiopia, and Guatemala, where the cool climates and rich soils develop complex, nuanced flavors. But what makes Arabica so special? For one, it's more delicate than Robusta, meaning it has a more complex flavor profile. It grows slower at higher altitudes, which gives the beans time to develop subtle notes of fruit, chocolate, or even florals. Starbucks bean hunters, known as coffee buyers, travel around the world, visiting farms to taste and test these beans firsthand. They assess everything from the soil quality to how the beans are harvested. If a batch doesn't meet their exacting standards, it's rejected. The result is that only the highest quality beans are selected for the next step of the cold brew process. It's like going through the finale of America's Got Talent. The competition is tough, but only the best get to continue their journey. So now that we have our star beans ready to go, how to bring out the best in them? It all starts with roasting, where the magic truly begins. Roasting is where the real personality of the coffee comes to life, like giving each bean its own unique character arc. Imagine the beans as unpolished gems, and the roasting process is where they get their shine. At their highly acclaimed roasting facility, this isn't just any roasting. It's an art form combined with precise science. Unlike traditional hot brew, cold brew requires a unique approach to roasting, one that prioritizes sweetness, smoothness, and a touch of boldness. Starbucks roasting experts have fine-tuned a custom roast profile that's tailored specifically for cold brew. The goal is to unlock the bean's natural sweetness and body while minimizing bitterness. This is achieved through a careful balance of temperature, time, and the roaster's keen ear. The roasting process takes place in small batches in drum roasters. As the beans heat up, they begin to crack and pop, a sound that signals the release of their aromatic oils. This is a critical moment, as it indicates that the beans are reaching their peak flavor development. For cold brew, Starbucks opts for a medium dark roast. This level of roasting enhances the coffee's natural chocolate and caramel notes, creating a full-bodied brew without overwhelming the palate. It's a delicate balance that requires precision and experience. The roasting process is akin to crafting a musical composition. Each note or flavor must be carefully considered and executed to create a harmonious symphony. The choices made during roasting will have a profound impact on the final taste of the cold brew. Now that the beans are roasted to perfection, how do they become the cold brew we know and love? Let's dive into the slow brewing process. The 20-hour brewing process of cold brew is more than just a leisurely activity. It's a carefully orchestrated dance between time, temperature, and the chemical reactions that occur within the coffee beans. Cold water, unlike hot water, doesn't disrupt the delicate proteins and carbohydrates in the coffee beans. This allows for a more gradual extraction of flavors, resulting in a smoother and less acidic brew. The slow pace also prevents the beans from over-extracting, which can lead to bitterness. During the brewing process, The coffee grounds act as a filter, allowing the water to slowly seep through and dissolve the soluble compounds that give coffee its flavor. The longer the water is in contact with the grounds, the more flavor is extracted. It's a bit like making tea, but on a much larger scale. The steep time allows the tea leaves to release their full flavor potential. In the case of cold brew, the extended brewing time ensures that every nuance of the coffee beans is captured. Hey, you wouldn't mind waiting in line for hours? Just for riding adrenaline-pumping roller coasters in Disneyland, would you? Or, in more extreme cases, waiting for days just to be the first one in line to get the latest iPhone 16 Pro. So, while the 20-hour process may seem like a lot of waiting, it's essential for creating a truly exceptional cold brew. It's a testament to the art and science of coffee making. Trust me, the satisfaction you'll get from sipping the perfect brew is worth the wait. Now that the coffee is steeped, how does Starbucks ensure it's as smooth and clean as possible? That's where the filtration process comes in. Now that Starbucks cold brew has steeped for 20 long hours, letting all the rich flavors emerge, it's time to separate the liquid gold from any unwanted grit. This is where microfiltration steps into the spotlight. Think of this as a coffee version of the classic kitchen scenario. You bake the perfect cake, but now you've got to sift out the lumps. Only in Starbucks' case, those lumps are tiny particles, oils, and any rogue grounds that could mess with that silky smooth cold brew experience. So, how do they do it? Let's break it down. First, Starbucks uses high-precision filters, but these aren't your grandma's mesh strainer. No, we're talking microfilters with pores so fine they can catch particles as small as a few microns. That's smaller than a speck of dust. To put this into perspective, if coffee particles were human-sized, these filters would be like trying to squeeze through the eye of a needle. It's a molecular party, and only the smoothest, purest coffee gets an invite. Now, here's where science takes over. The microfiltration process doesn't just purify. It also helps to stabilize the coffee's shelf life. Coffee, like that spinach in your fridge that you swear you'll use tomorrow, tends to degrade quickly when exposed to oxygen or oils. The filtration step removes much of the natural oils from the beans, which are great for flavor when fresh, but can lead to rancidity over time. But here's a fun fact that'll make your inner science nerd cheer. Coffee is full of volatile compounds, which are molecules that evaporate easily and carry aromas. During microfiltration, the system captures and preserves these delicate compounds. So when you crack open a can of Starbucks cold brew, you get hit with that intoxicating smell of fresh coffee, something you'd lose if Starbucks skipped this vital step. Another cool aspect of microfiltration, it's not just about purity, it's about consistency. Starbucks doesn't just want one batch of cold brew to taste amazing. They want every batch, every can, every sip to deliver the same smooth, bold flavor. Imagine the disaster if your first can of cold brew tasted rich and smooth, but not on the second one. What a surefire way to release your inner Hulk and ruin the rest of your day. The system uses multiple passes to ensure all particles, no matter how minuscule, are filtered out. Each batch of cold brew runs through these filters over and over again until it's squeaky clean. No shortcuts, no second chances. Starbucks knows that coffee drinkers have trust issues when it comes to flavor, so they go the extra mile to make sure every can meets their exacting standards. Now that the cold brew is smooth and pure, how does Starbucks keep it fresh and delicious for weeks on end? The answer lies in the next step: nitrogen infusion and airtight packaging. It's time to put the finishing touches on this liquid masterpiece. But how do they lock in all that freshness and flavor, ensuring that the cold brew tastes just as good after sitting on your fridge shelf for weeks? First off, nitrogen infusion is a game changer in the coffee world. You might have seen those fancy cans of Starbucks Nitro Cold Brew. But did you know that even the regular canned cold brew gets a little boost from nitrogen? Nitrogen is an inert gas, which means it doesn't react with the coffee. This makes it the perfect sidekick in the battle against oxidation, the enemy that can make coffee taste stale over time. When nitrogen is infused into the cold brew, it helps displace the oxygen that would otherwise spoil the delicate flavors. Plus, it adds that signature smooth, slightly velvety texture that makes cold brew so irresistible. After the coffee is infused with nitrogen, it's time to seal the deal, literally. The cans are filled under pressure, which prevents any oxygen from sneaking back in. This creates a pressurized environment inside the can, ensuring that when you crack it open, the coffee is as fresh and delicious as it was the moment it left the factory. This is why you get that satisfying hiss when you open a can of Starbucks cold brew. It's the nitrogen being released, and with it, all those perfectly preserved flavors come rushing out. But here's the cool part. The canning process happens at breakneck speed. Starbucks uses ultra-modern automated filling lines that can pump out hundreds of cans per minute. Picture a conveyor belt zooming along like it's late for a date, with cans flying by so fast, you'd think you were watching a high-stakes car chase in a Michael Bay movie. Every can is swiftly filled, pressurized, sealed, and checked for quality. And when I say checked for quality, I mean Starbucks doesn't play around. Every batch is rigorously tested to make sure it meets their exacting standards. They want to make sure that by the time that cold brew hits your hand, it's not just good, it's perfect. But what about all the different flavors? Does each one need a special process to preserve those unique tastes? Let's dive into that now. When it comes to Starbucks canned cold brew, variety is the name of the game. From the classic black cold brew to subtly sweet vanilla and rich dark caramel, the flavor profiles are all meticulously crafted. But here's the interesting part. Although the base cold brew goes through the same microfiltration and nitrogen infusion process, the flavor variations each have their own tweaks during the flavoring phase. Adding flavor to cold brew is not as simple as dumping some vanilla syrup in and calling it a day. Each flavor needs to be carefully infused during the production process to maintain the balance of the coffee's natural richness. Whether it's vanilla or caramel, Starbucks uses natural flavor extracts that are added to the coffee right after filtration, but before the nitrogen infusion. This allows the flavor to blend seamlessly with the coffee, ensuring that you taste the flavor notes without overpowering the smooth cold brew base. And here's where things get extra interesting. For flavored varieties, there's a slightly different packaging process involved. The natural flavor extracts used in the coffee are more sensitive to light and temperature, so Starbucks has to adjust the packaging accordingly. For example, the cans used for flavored cold brew are specially lined to ensure the flavors stay intact during storage and transportation. This means each flavor requires slightly different packaging conditions, although the nitrogen infusion process remains consistent across all varieties. While the flavors are carefully calibrated and the cans filled with precision, the packaging is not just about convenience. It's about preservation and protection. Starbucks cans are made with high-grade aluminum, which offers superior protection against light, air, and moisture, all enemies of great coffee. The cans are also fully recyclable, which means that not only do you get a great coffee experience, but you can feel good about reducing your environmental footprint. But Starbucks doesn't stop at just using aluminum cans. The designs on each can are meant to reflect the flavor inside. So when you see that sleek, minimalist black can of unsweetened cold brew, you know you're in for a bold, no-nonsense coffee experience. On the other hand, the vibrant caramel or vanilla designs hint at the sweeter, more indulgent flavors waiting inside. With cold brew and nitrogen infusion mastered, could Starbucks experiment with more exotic flavors or single-origin cold brews in the future? So, what's next? In a world where coffee culture is evolving, canned cold brew isn't the only star of the show. There's a growing trend towards specialty coffee that has coffee drinkers hooked, from the origin of the beans to the roast profile and the meticulous brewing methods. Speaking of specialty coffee, have you heard of Kopi Luwak? This isn't just coffee. It's the most exquisite and expensive coffee in the world, revered for its unique flavor and rare production process. Some call it the champagne of coffees, but others say it's more like the Great Gatsby, decadent, luxurious, and a little controversial. They say it's so luxurious, it makes your typical latte look like a fast food drive-through order. But what exactly makes Kopi Luwak so special? Is it worth the hype and the price tag? And would you be brave enough to try it, knowing how it's made? Well, we'll be diving into the wild world of specialty coffee in our next video, including the elusive secrets of Kopi Luwak. Stay tuned, because this is where coffee takes an entirely new turn.